Have you ever wondered why humanity is constantly drawn to power, rebellion, and the desire to push boundaries? Since the beginning of time, history has been shaped by those who dared to challenge authority, and this did not start on earth. Before the wars of men, there was a war in heaven. 4 powerful angels, each with a unique purpose, chose to rise against God. And believe it or not, the consequences of their rebellion are still unfolding today. But forget what you think you know. The story of the fallen angels goes far beyond what is commonly taught. These beings were not just demons spreading evil randomly. Each of them had a specific role, a well-crafted scheme that not only led to their downfall, but also reshaped the destiny of humanity. Lucifer's pride, Azazel's forbidden knowledge, Belial's subtle corruption, and Leviathan's absolute chaos were not just isolated events, they were pieces of a cosmic game, and we are still part of the board. Think about this. If these angels were defeated, why is their influence still so powerful? Wars, corruption, the fall of empires, unexplained destruction. Does all of this really happen by chance? Or is it possible that the echoes of this ancient rebellion are still shaping the history of civilization? What really happened when these angels were cast out? What were the true consequences of their actions? And most importantly, what is yet to come? You are about to uncover the secrets that many avoid discussing. Before we continue, if you like our videos and feel that they have blessed your life, like and comment, even if it's just an amen. This makes a huge difference for this content to reach more people and impact lives. If you are not yet subscribed, take the opportunity to subscribe, activate notifications, and share with those you love. Help spread this message of faith and hope. Each like, comment, and share strengthens this work, which we do with all affection to edify your life. Together we can reach even more hearts. Continuing. Lucifer was not always the feared figure he became throughout history. There was a time when he walked among the angels, radiant, exuding light and power. The very etymology of his name carries a certain paradox, light bearer. But what happens when light turns against its own source? Pride, this silent virus that corrodes empires and hearts, found its way into him. He didn't just want to serve the Creator, he wanted to be like him. And here lies a crucial point. The desire for ascension, when guided by vanity, becomes the seed of downfall. Lucifer saw the structure of heaven, understood the mechanics of power, and instead of bowing, he chose to orchestrate his own plot. His steps were not reckless. A being of such intelligence does not act without calculation. What he did was plant rebellion as a seductive idea. Think of the great leaders who mobilized crowds for their own interests. They didn't get there by shouting orders, but by whispering promises. Lucifer was no different. He convinced a fraction of the angels that there was an alternative path. A new celestial civilization where power would not rest in the hands of only one. But here's a detail that is rarely mentioned. He knew he would not win. So why did he try? The answer is deeper than a mere desire for power. He wanted to prove a point. He wanted to show that even in the absolute presence of perfection, corruption was still possible. Heaven does not tolerate impurities. If a grain of sand falls into a perfect machine, something must be done. The rebellion had a price. Lucifer and his followers were expelled. But what does fall truly mean? The image of angels plummeting from heaven is powerful, but the reality may have been more complex. What was taken from him was not just his position, but his very essence. Imagine someone losing everything that defined their existence. The sparkle in their eyes, the certainty in their heart, the purity of their purpose. Pride did not allow him to accept his new condition. Instead, he embraced his own deformation and became what he had long denied, a symbol of opposition to the divine. But don't think his story ends there. Lucifer's exile was not an end, it was a beginning. Cast out, he did not resign himself. To defeat, he reinvented himself. Over the ages, his influence did not disappear, it only changed form. He became the grand strategist, the architect of human downfalls. Where there is a forbidden secret, there is his signature. Where there is an empire built on pride, there is his whisper. And isn't it ironic? He lost his celestial throne, but built fortresses in the hearts of men. Doesn't this sound familiar? The desire for absolute power, the idea that no one should be above another, that all rules can be broken in the name of freedom. How many times has this cycle repeated itself? Throughout history, the great lesson from Lucifer's fall is not just what happened to him, but what continues to happen to those who follow in his footsteps. Pride always comes disguised as merit, rebellion wears the cloak of independence, and corruption begins with a small concession. The problem is never the first step, but the path it creates. Like a slow-acting poison, Lucifer's influence is not abrupt, but subtle. He does not break down doors. He whispers ideas into the wind. He does not command. Rebellion, he plants the right doubt. After all, how many civilizations have already fallen for the same mistake? Looking back, Lucifer's fall becomes more than just a celestial event. It reflects human nature itself. The truth is, his story was never just about angels. It's about anyone who desires to rise to the top without accepting the established order. And here's a chilling detail. If there is an invisible enemy guiding these thoughts, how can one fight him? The answer is not as obvious as it seems. Perhaps it is not with force nor with rules, but with something he never managed to understand. But what happens next? Well, Lucifer did not fall alone. There were others, and one of them was not just interested in power. He wanted something deeper, knowledge, a forbidden wisdom capable of changing not just the heavens, but the earth as well. Azazel, the angel of corruption, would enter the scene, and with him a new kind of tragedy would unfold. Azazel was nothing like Lucifer. While the light-bearer sought the celestial throne, Azazel wanted something different. He wanted to shape the world in his own image. Heaven no longer interested him. His gaze was set upon the earth, upon the growing civilization of humankind. And there, among mortals, he found what he was looking for, a blank canvas ready to be corrupted. But what is corruption really? It is not a direct attack, nor does it arrive with violence. It is a slow process, a discreet infiltration that transforms things little by little without the victim even noticing. Azazel understood this better than anyone. Knowledge was his weapon. Unlike the other fallen angels, he did not seek to conquer through force, but through the seduction of forbidden wisdom. He taught humans the art of metallurgy, allowing them to forge weapons and change the course of history. He revealed the secrets of witchcraft, bringing powers once restricted to the divine realm. But see, the problem was never the knowledge itself. What Azazel did was something much more subtle. He delivered these gifts without responsibility, without morality, without limits, and so the fall became inevitable. Humanity began to see itself as gods, believing that power alone could define what was right and wrong. With his revelations, the plot of humanity began to change. Peoples who were once simple now armed themselves. Peaceful tribes became armies. Corruption grew, and Azazel watched with satisfaction. His plan was never immediate. He didn't need to destroy anything. He only needed to lay the first brick of destruction. Wars arose where once there had been mere disputes. The thirst for power replaced reverence for the divine. And so, civilization marched toward the abyss, guided by its own pride. The angels looked down in disbelief at the speed of the moral decay. How was it possible that everything had collapsed so quickly? But judgment would not take long. Azazel was not just any being. He could not simply disappear among mortals. His influence had become too great, his presence a real threat to the celestial balance, and so his punishment came. God commanded that he be captured and cast into the desert, chained until the final judgment. Buried beneath the scorching sands, he could no longer act directly. Or could he? The corruption he planted continued to grow. He may be imprisoned, but his ideas still live within the hearts of men. What is most terrifying about Azazel's story is not what he did, but how he did it. He proved that one does not need to use force to dominate. Knowledge, when corrupted, is a far deadlier weapon than any sword. Think about it. How many times in human history has the thirst for power destroyed empires? How many leaders have been lost, believing they could control everything? Corruption does not announce itself when it arrives, and that is what makes it so dangerous. It begins as a simple thought, an innocent desire, until it becomes an irreversible downfall. If Azazel taught the world anything, it is that the real danger does not come from the outside, but from within. The temptation to have more, to know more, to be more, these can be both a gift and a curse. Knowledge alone does not corrupt, but when used without conscience, without balance, it destroys. And who watches all of this happen without interfering, as if testing humanity? An angel who did not fall completely, but was also never truly loyal. And a being who walks between two worlds, judging and punishing. His name is Samael, and his story is even more intriguing. Samael is a mystery among the fallen angels. Unlike Lucifer, who openly rebelled, and Azazel, who corrupted humanity with forbidden knowledge, Samael walked between light and shadow. His role was ambiguous, almost contradictory. In some traditions, he was an executor of divine justice, the one who brought death according to God's will. In others, he was seen as the tempter, the silent adversary who tested humanity at its weakest moments. But what happens when a powerful being oscillates between duty and desire? When the angel of death does not just carry out orders, but begins to question his own role in the balance of the universe. The truth is that Samael never truly fit into a single side of the story. He was both the hand that punished and the voice that whispered doubts. His fall did not transform him the way it did Lucifer, nor was he imprisoned like Azazel. He remained active, walking between realms, fulfilling his role without ever fully revealing his intentions, and perhaps that is precisely what makes him so dangerous. Because a declared enemy can be fought, but an adversary who wears the mask of neutrality can deceive even the wisest. And isn't that exactly how temptation works? It doesn't come obviously, but as an option that seems fair, a path that appears right until it's too late. Samael was an agent of judgment. When cities fell into corruption, when civilization plunged into pride and rebellion, he was there. Some stories claim that he was the one who destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, bringing fire upon lands consumed by wickedness. Others link him directly to the fall of man in Eden, as the one who incited Eve to question divine order. And notice something interesting. In both narratives, corruption did not happen by force. It was a subtle process, an awakening of desires that were already present but needed a little push to emerge. After all, what is more powerful than an adversary who does not need to raise an army, but only to plant a doubt? In the end, Samael represented something greater than mere punishment. He was a reflection of the very cycle of humanity. Man is born, grows, is tested, fails, suffers the consequences, and then begins again. The death that Samael brought was never just physical. It was also a metaphor for moral downfall, for the mistakes that lead to ruin, for the forbidden secrets that drag entire civilizations into oblivion. But here's a curious detail. If he was an instrument of justice, why? In some stories, is he also portrayed as a rebel, Could an angel be both loyal and unfaithful at the same time? Or is it possible that deep down he never served a single purpose? This duality made Samael a figure difficult to understand, and perhaps that is why his presence never completely vanished. Unlike other fallen angels who were either imprisoned or cast away, he continued to roam, carrying out tasks that no one fully comprehended. His role was necessary, but his presence always left a feeling of unease. How do you trust an agent of death? How do you accept the influence of a being who sometimes serves order and other times instigates chaos? Isn't that exactly how many forces in the world operate today? Governments, religions, systems of power, everything seems to seek balance. But sometimes it is the very guardians of order who cause the downfall. And here is the most dangerous aspect of Samael. He does not impose ideas. He makes people come to conclusions on their own. He does not tell someone to rebel. He merely creates the circumstances that make rebellion seem inevitable. He does not command anyone to defy God. He only presents a scenario where disobedience appears justifiable. Like a grand strategist, he does not fight. He shapes the battlefield. And when ruin arrives, he simply watches, without guilt, without remorse, as if everything were following an invisible plan. But if Samael was subtle, there was another fallen angel who did not hide his intentions, a being who did not just manipulate but built empires upon corruption. His name, Belial, the father of lies. Belial never needed wars to win. He did not use armies or spread terror by force. His method was subtler, far more dangerous. He did not arrive as a tyrant but as a friend. He did not speak of destruction but of freedom. While Lucifer fell because of pride and Azazel because of the corruption of knowledge, Belial chose a different path: manipulation. His name, throughout history, has become synonymous with worthlessness, perversion, and deceit. But his true specialty was something even more profound. He undermined the structure of divine order without anyone realizing it, and when they did, it was already too late. His targets were never the strong, the openly evil, or those who were already lost. That would have been too easy. Belial aimed for the leaders, the priests, the judges, those who were supposed to protect morality and uphold civilization. And how did he do this? With a simple idea. He made it seem like right and wrong were relative, that principles could be adjusted based on convenience, that a small deviation from the truth was not really a lie. And just like that, corruption settled into the foundations of society. Like an invisible cancer, it grew unnoticed until everything was rotten from the inside out. The Bible mentions Belial multiple times, always associating him with wickedness and social chaos. In Judges, he is linked to men without scruples who caused the downfall of entire cities. In Samuel, his followers are described as agents of disorder, always ready to spread chaos whenever possible. But the greatest proof of his influence is not found in ancient texts. It is found in human history itself. How many nations have fallen, not because of war, but because of silent corruption? How many empires have been destroyed, not by external enemies, but by internal decay? This has always been Belial's method, not attacking from the outside, but destroying from within. And here's the irony: those deceived by Belial never realize they are being manipulated. On the contrary, they believe they are in control, that they made their own decisions. And isn't that exactly how the perfect lie works? If a falsehood is too obvious, no one will accept it. But if it is introduced gradually, with half-truths and convincing justifications, it can shape entire societies. Hypocrisy becomes culture, corruption becomes the norm, and downfall becomes inevitable. And when everything collapses, Belial simply walks away, because after all, he never forced anything. He only suggested. Perhaps the most terrifying aspect of his influence is this: He never needed violence nor absolute power. His greatest weapon has always been subtlety. Think of the great empires of antiquity: Rome, Babylon, Greece. All of them reached the peak of glory, but in the end, they crumbled from the inside out. What started as small compromises turned into absolute permissiveness. What was once just a moral deviation became the new normal. And then, everything collapsed. The world has seen this pattern before, and it will continue to see it as long as there is room for lies disguised as truth. But Belial is not just a problem of the past. His influence never disappeared. It only changed form. If he once used false prophets and corrupt rulers, today he hides behind ideologies that distort values, behind systems that normalize what should be unthinkable. The lie is still alive, just in new disguises, and the worst part, most don't even realize it. After all, when was the last time someone knew they were being deceived at the exact moment they were being deceived? Belial's true trap is this: to make the prisoner believe they are free. And if Belial represented internal corruption, there was another fallen angel who embodied something even more primal. He did not manipulate, he did not deceive, he simply destroyed. A colossal being, born to devour everything in his path, pure chaos in its rawest form. His name, Leviathan, the terror of the depths. Leviathan never needed words or elaborate strategies. Unlike Lucifer, who orchestrated a rebellion, or Belial, who manipulated from the shadows, he was pure instinct, destruction without explanation, chaos without control. The Bible describes him as a colossal monster, a being that dwells in the depths, untamed and terrifying. But Leviathan is not just a physical creature. He is a concept, a force that defies any attempt at order. While other fallen angels corrupted civilization with ideas and lies, Leviathan simply crushed everything in his path. He did not seek domination, he sought annihilation. In the book of Job, Leviathan is described as an impenetrable sea beast whose body cannot be wounded by swords or spears. In Isaiah, he is portrayed as the ultimate symbol of evil, a twisted serpent that will be destroyed at the end of time. But here's an interesting detail. Leviathan follows no one. He does not serve Lucifer. He does not obey Belial. He does not align with Azazel. He is an autonomous force, uncontrollable even by the fallen themselves. His essence is pure chaos, and perhaps that is why he is the most feared of all. Because pride can be confronted, corruption can be avoided, lies can be exposed. But how do you fight something that follows no rules? Imagine a city built on solid principles, a civilization that has flourished for generations. Then, out of nowhere, an earthquake strikes, reducing everything to ruins. That is Leviathan. He does not choose victims, he makes no deals, he has no purpose beyond absolute destruction. And if you think about it, this force has been present in many moments throughout history. Great empires have fallen, not because of internal corruption, but due to uncontrollable forces, sudden invasions, natural disasters, senseless wars. Where order exists, he seeks to unravel it. Where stability reigns, he brings instability. But there is something even more intriguing about him. Unlike other beings mentioned in Scripture, Leviathan has a clear fate. He will be defeated by God at the end of time. This means that despite his rage and power, his destruction has already been decreed, but until that day he continues to act. If Lucifer plants rebellion, if Belial sows lies, and if Azazel spreads corruption, Leviathan ensures that absolute chaos takes over when collapse is imminent. He is the end of the cycle, the one who arrives when everything has already deteriorated, leaving nothing behind. Looking at the world today, it's hard not to see signs of Leviathan, not just in literal destruction, but in chaos in its purest form. Wars that arise without clear reasons, societies that collapse suddenly, disasters that seem inevitable. Where there is stability, he seeks to undo it. Where there is structure, he brings disorder. And here's a disturbing thought. Does he act alone, or are there forces that summon him, that allow him to enter? After all, chaos does not always arise spontaneously. Sometimes it is provoked. The terror of Leviathan is not just in his enormous strength, but in what he represents. He is the reminder that no civilization is eternal, that no structure is immune to destruction. His role is to remind humanity that stability is never guaranteed, that collapse can come from the least expected places. But if his fate is already sealed, why does he still act? Does his existence still serve a purpose, or is there something deeper that we have yet to understand? And here is the greatest question. If Leviathan represents absolute chaos, who will be responsible for putting an end to him? Who has the power to restore what was destroyed? There is more to this story than meets the eye. And perhaps the answer lies where no one expected. Now that you know the true story of the four fallen angels, here's the question no one can ignore. What does all of this mean for you? Make no mistake, these are not just stories from the past, but fragments of a reality that is still unfolding around us. Pride, corruption, manipulation, and chaos are not just abstract concepts. They continue to shape civilizations, influence leaders, and even more frightening, infiltrate the daily lives of individuals. If Lucifer challenged God for power, how many today are doing the same, disguised under ideologies and promises of freedom? If Azazel corrupted humanity with unrestricted knowledge, how many are selling the illusion that everything is permissible? If Belial destroyed empires through lies and hypocrisy, how many systems are silently collapsing the same way? And Leviathan, the chaos that consumes everything, could the world be on the verge of witnessing his awakening again? Now take a look around. Do you really believe we are far from these influences? Or is it possible that they are still at work, invisible yet present, in every decision that steers humanity away from its purpose? This story is not over. It is still unfolding. The real question is, which side are you on? Tell me in the comments, which of these fallen angels do you think has the greatest influence in today's world? And more importantly, how can we resist these forces that operate both in the world and many times within ourselves? Let's continue this conversation. And if you want more content like this, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and get ready, because there are many more secrets waiting to be revealed.